What's the Arab-Israel conflict? Refers to political tension and armed conflicts between the State of Israel and its Arab neighbors, in particular the Palestinians, take place in Middle East and start in 1948.
Good morning. We are here today with a history teacher. His name is Milton, and we're going to talk about the Arab-Israeli conflict. And we have some questions for him today, so he can answer and give us his opinion about the topic. Milton.
Thank you. Good morning.
Okay.
Thanks for inviting me.
Our first question is: what is for you the best solution? Two states or one state?
Well, it has been always this conflict really complex. It's difficult to say, but I would incline for two states. Since we're talking about uh, two different cultural group of people
Mhm.
with their own history, their inheritance, their traditions. We need to remember that basically nations were formed from ethnic groups with similarities of language, of, as I mentioned before, culture, traditions, beliefs, etc. It's difficult to rule both groups under one only state. So I understand why there's been always this conflict between.
And what do you basically know about the conflict?
What I know that all along the 20th century, both groups are been fighting. On one hand, you have the Jewish people, and in the other hand, you have a group of countries that share the Muslim religion, the Arab traditions. Uh, I know that before the First World War, we had the Ottoman Empire, and then it got divided, and many of these countries were like lost in the map. Also, with the intrusion of the European countries, and well, they start fighting for their own piece of land, for the place. And since both traditions has the same religious tradition, the same religion origin, uh, both think that Jerusalem is their holy city. So it's been always a conflict of land, of the a place for worship, and both believe that this land is promised to them. So that is why there's been always since the 19th century, and along the 20th century there's been different wars, like the first war in 1948. Then they fought the Six Day War in 67, something like that. Then they had the Yom Kippur War, always fighting for the same place, the Gaza region, and the Sinai Peninsula, and there's a piece of sea where the what do you call it? Sorry, the the commerce, the commerce of the Jewish people tends to pass, and Egypt, especially Jordan and Syria, are the countries that have been trying to stop, for example, the commerce of Israel. And of course, always money and commerce become a matter of conflict and war.
Okay, so in this we have a Zionist movement, and what do you think about it? Like, what is the story for the Jewish community to do the Zionist movement?
Well, the Jewish people are very old, let's say, group of. I mean, their culture, their tradition comes from thousands of years ago. Okay? They have a long history, and if you study the history of the Jewish people, you can see that they've been affected for many, many years, including the ancient years where they were conquered by Babylonia, by Rome, sorry, Babylon, Rome. They've been spread around the world, and most recently we have the Nazi persecution and the Holocaust and all the millions of deaths. So you can understand that a movement like the Zionism, uh, it's like the natural response of a culture that's been persecuted and affected for many, many centuries, and they tend to gather again to to take care of their own traditions, their own identity, and in that particular way of looking at things, I think it's a positive movement.
Okay. Do you think religion is an influence in the conflict?
Yeah, of course, definitely. Uh, Even though we know that always in conflict there are military and economical issues, but we have no doubt, since the nature of these cultures, which has a very, very strong religious inclination, it's involved in religion. Both are considered religiously and culturally sons of Abraham, which is a great figure of the Bible. But from it's funny because the Jewish feel that they say they are descendants of um, sorry I forgot Isaac, the son of Abraham, and the Muslims believe that they are sons of Ismail, the other son of Abraham. Abraham. Both traditions comes from the same historic origin, and that's why they both feel they have the same rights about the land, which was promised in the Bible for the descendants of Abraham.
Okay. So, do you think it was necessary to start a war instead of making an agreement?
Of course, it's it's not necessary to start a war. I mean, how to say it? We don't need wars. Okay, never, we never need wars. But sadly, sometimes the only solution that the country leaders and the culture leaders and the people it's the only solution they find to overcome situations in which their interests are affected, especially when there are commercial issues, like when the Egypt established a blockade on the commerce of Israel, and actually they have they have established in their political convictions that every time their commerce or their freedoms are affected, they go to war.
¿Piensas que es mejor que en el territorio haya un estado o dos? Dos, para que puedan compartir sus ideales y sus religiones. ¿Qué es lo último que sabes sobre el conflicto? La agresividad que han impartido los musulmanes contra católicos y contra creyentes. ¿Piensas que el conflicto vale la pena por este territorio? No. ¿Qué piensas que influye más, la religión o el territorio? La religión. ¿Piensas que la religión es una influencia para este conflicto? ¿Por qué? Siempre ha existido en ellos la ideología de las creencias y todo eso. ¿Crees que es necesario pelear por este problema? ¿Que se resuelva? No. ¿Cómo cree que la guerra afecte a los países vecinos? El destrozo de las guerras siempre ha afectado y ha hecho daño a los demás. ¿Qué solución propondría usted? Buscar acuerdos con la ayuda de las demás naciones. ¿Cree que este problema termine algún día? Posiblemente algún día.
In conclusion, this conflict is a really difficult one because it includes not only land interest, it includes culture, religion, and political treaties with other countries. So this is a really difficult war and we wait to be resolved in some years. But in fact, we don't know if this could be possible.